In January, we did my annual 31 Days to a More Effective Compliance program where we looked at one thing you could do each day. Well, we're back with the Compliance Tip of the Day. This is the podcast where we bring you daily insights and practical advice on navigating the ever-evolving landscape of compliance requirements. Whether you're a seasoned compliance professional or just starting your journey, my aim in this podcast is to provide you with a bite-sized, actionable tip to help you stay on top of your compliance game. In the chaotic world of 2025 and beyond, compliance will become even more important, and you staying on top of your game will help your company move forward. Today we consider how to and the importance of mapping your internal controls. Both the Department of Justice and the Securities and Exchange Commission have made it clear that the accounting provisions of the FCPA, specifically the internal controls provisions, are critical going forward. Charles Kane, the former chief of the FCPA unit at the SEC, reiterated multiple times that the SEC is committed to protecting investors in U.S. public companies and other companies who list their securities in the United States through the enforcement of the accounting provisions, including provisions of the internal controls. The reason is straightforward. A company with rigorous internal controls is better able to prevent, detect, and remediate any FCPA violation that may occur. How can you do this around the what can you do around the FCPA's requirements for internal controls and continued SEC enforcement? I would suggest you begin with an exercise where you map your internal controls that you have in place in the against the indicia of the hallmarks of an effective compliance program as set out in the 2020 FCPA Resource Guide. While most compliance practitioners are familiar with the hallmarks, they may not be as familiar with the standards for internal controls. I would suggest that you begin with the COSO 2013 Internal Controls Framework as your starting point. As a lawyer or compliance practitioner, you may not be familiar with all the internal controls that you have in place. This exercise gives you a good opportunity to meet with the heads of internal audit, finance, accounting, treasury, and other functions in your company that may deal on a more rigorous basis or ongoing basis with internal controls. Obviously, internal controls are useful throughout many parts of your organization, but an easy example is employee expense reports. This is mandatory for IRS reporting, so every company has internal controls around employee expense reports in place. What information do you require? Do you require it signed? Do you require documentation attached? Does the immediate supervisor of the employee review and approve it? Does the employee have direct reporting chain approval over it? How is the payment made to the employee? A variety of questions which are actually internal controls. If an employee submits expenses for activities outside the U.S., were there any foreign government officials involved in it? You can take this exercise through each of the 5 objectives under the COSO framework with its attendant 17 principles and 84 points of focus. From this mapping, then you can perform a gap analysis to determine where you might need to implement internal controls remediation into your compliance program. This remedial step is key as it will allow you to upgrade your internal controls to meet the FCPA requirements. As a compliance professional, this exercise is an exercise you can engage in at no cost. You simply investigate and note what internal controls you have in place and how that may be a part of your anti-corruption effort going forward. So what are today's 3 key takeaways? Number 1, learn the internal controls your company has in place. 2, map your internal controls to the COSO 2013 Internal Controls Framework. And 3, use a gap analysis as a basis for your remediation. If you take these steps to actually perform a mapping and then a gap analysis, you will be able to, in my opinion, sustain any investigation or inquiry by relevant authorities, including the Securities and Exchange Commission. One of the things that I'm happy to do for you, the compliance profession, is if you have a question or a series of questions you would like some compliance tips on, I'm happy to take any requests that you might want, certainly anonymize them, and give you a quick tip. Either one quick tip or maybe a week's worth of quick tips. So if you have any tips you want about your compliance program, you can shoot me an email at tfox@tfoxlaw.com. This podcast was created and produced with the assistance of AI.